And welcome to the Ruby Tuesday. My name is Ruben, and this is my review for Netflix's original series called Squid Game. This is non-spoiler review, but at the end I will be talking about the end and kind of do an ending explained with a little bit of spoilers because I think it's a fun one to talk about. But for now, it's non-spoiler. Let's jump in. Hundreds of cash-strapped players accept a strange invitation to compete in children's games. Inside, a tempting prize awaits with deadly high stakes. So this is one that I think a lot of people have been anticipating to watch. There's been some really interesting Netflix original Korean series of late, and this is one I know people in the comments of recent reviews have been going, Ruben, are you going to check this out? When are you going to review it? It dropped today. There's 9 episodes, and they range from about an hour to 30 minutes. It's all over the place. It's just as what they needed to tell of the story in each episode is what they've gone for, which is great because Netflix has obviously given them the space to be able to go and create this amazing, interesting, tense, dark, bloody, gory, fun series. That's like, in a nutshell, it has all of that going on. From the beginning, you're going to be placed in the shoes of your kind of main protagonist, even though there's quite a few players in this game. And it's definitely going to remind you from the outset of Battle Royale meets Hunger Games meets Takeshi's Castle. And it's not nearly as light as Takeshi's Castle. In fact, there's no lightness. It doesn't let up, and it gets darker as it goes along. And every time our players have to do a new kids game with very violent consequences, you think it can't get worse, but it does. It's not necessarily that the games are bad, it's what happens in between or how the game is played. It's also, like I mentioned briefly, it's also very gory in places. So if you're easily affected by gore, you're gonna cringe at places. I was surprised at how emotionally engaged I was with this, especially with a few of the protagonists that I really didn't want to die. And in a series like this, you're gonna have them fall out. If you've seen Hunger Games or Battle Royale, you know the sort of story that you're getting. I like the kind of take with the game style of this, but what made this fresh but just really good is that the characters that they follow, there's a few main protagonists, and those that they follow, they really give you some of the backstory. The first episode is kind of solidifying who are the main players, and then throughout a few of the episodes we're kind of getting backstories along the way. But at the same time, you start getting a little inkling as to what this is all about, who's actually created the game. What I quite liked about this is they show you how players get to the game. It kind of gives you an idea of what's going on around. But it also shapes a world where there's a possibility of another story that could happen. But don't go, oh no, they leave it on a massive cliffhanger. For the most part, this is a contained story. There's a bit left out in the open, which they could continue if they wanted. So I thought it was great that they kind of contained it. I don't know if it's going to end the way you're going to want it to end, and you're definitely going to choose characters that you're going to be rooting for, and I feel like you're going to be emotionally engaged for the most part. Definitely by, say, episode 6, you're going to know who you want to survive, and I would hold those feelings not too close to your heart because, like I said, Battle Royale meets Hunger Games is definitely one of those. The sets themselves are very vibrant in color, are fantastic to watch in the gory and colorful way that there is. There's also a couple of interesting storylines that are intertwined into the main arc of the game show that you get. Even when there's downtime, it's not really downtime because you want to know what's going on with those stories. So it keeps the pacing going. It's very bingeable. You know, these episodes will fly by once you allow the story to kind of get its hooks into you. I would say from about episode 2, you're probably not going to want to stop watching it. So give yourself some ample time. There is some phenomenal acting moments as well that sounds bad, it's like I wasn't expecting. But these type of shows, you have a lot of characters, so it's often hard to get to grips or even allow the space for actors to really shine. There's an elderly gentleman in this that has moments that I thought, wow, that was a fantastic moment. So in amongst the gore and the interesting game choices that they do for the kids and the story that keeps you on edge, there are these acting moments from our characters that have an emotional story to tell, but the acting that you get across from it is really there for you to take to grips with. Like, you're getting every nuance, every emotional tidbit that you want. I changed over for an episode to English dubbing. I didn't think it was terrible, but it definitely takes away from some of the the nuances that you get from acting, from those actors that are portraying what they've been given by the director and the dialogue. They really bring it out. Read the subtitles if you can and listen in the original language. That's always the best way to go. Cinematography is great. There's some really interesting shots that they do. It keeps you tense. The music as well. It's a weird, eclectic mix from classical to these weird instrumental moments that's non-classical or rock. It was just stuff that I wasn't expecting to have in here. There are musical montages or songs that I would never have thought of to put in this series, and it really worked. So I just kind of give a hand between the editing and the score and the cinematography. All kind of is a package that lends itself to you sitting forward on your seat going, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. A lot of fun in a very, very dark way. I would have loved a character that had some levity to it, but there was none of that in this. It was just dark, and it got darker and it's sadder, and you're like, oh my gosh, these guys' lives. You have so many characters whose lives are messed up in the first place for them to be pulled into this world, so they don't really have a choice. So they're making these choices that you shouldn't be making. And if you're in that situation, you keep telling yourself, well, I wouldn't make that choice. But when you are in a huge amount of debt and the only way up or out is to do horrific things that these people have placed you in the minute possibility that you might take away a prize of changing your life forever, I imagine some people would make that choice. And so we're placing humans in situations that are really nasty, but you know that they are there for a reason. And so there's always this conundrum of morality versus necessity, and it's an interesting take. So that's my review. I'm going to give this a straight up A. Thought it was fantastic. I'm going to talk about the ending now, so this is your place to jump out for spoilers if you don't want to see spoilers. I guess the whole time it was the older dude, because he was bored in life, and he had that whole speech in his deathbed saying, what's the difference between someone that's really poor and someone that's really rich? They don't know how to live life. One's with money that is like, it gets boring, and you can't do anything if you're poor because you have no money. My wife and I were arguing about this. Like, I think I've had an insane amount of money. I would find uses and gifting and being generous to people. That is something I would love to. I'd love to give poor people, just people that need houses, buy them houses and that sort of thing. So I don't think I would have an issue with that. However, getting back to the actual story, did you see that coming? Now that you know that it is the old dude that had orchestrated it, I don't think he's the head of the whole organization, but he might be the head of like that one sect. Because as you saw, there are the VIPs that are obviously paying as like a sort of really narcissistic, evil serial killer VIP-ness. Like, so you're voyeuristically paying for people to kill each other, and that's how you get off. And so that's what their deal was. But I imagine that there's a few other places around the world. I feel like it's the story is much bigger. There's a deeper, darker underground. I imagine that's where they're going with this story. Especially now that we have our main protagonist who won all the money and is giving it a lot away, and he's about to jump onto that plane, go see his daughter. He's got the money to be with her, and he decides no. He's so messed up from that, and he sees the cards and he knows the business is still going. He's like, nah, I'm going to try and take you out. We know that he can't join in. So what does that mean? Is he going to join up with someone? We also don't know that the detective is dead, because we saw him get shot, but it was up here by the shoulder, not in the heart, and he did fall a ways down. But if we're putting some of the realism that this show has aside, then some people like jumping off places, they do tend to survive sometimes, and so they could write that in, that he didn't die from that. He could be dead quite easily, and that's probably the more realistic take, but it could end up being detective and our main protagonist ending up together, somehow being roped into the next kind of game event, much like Hunger Games 2 or Battle Royale 2. I'm hoping that I have an interesting story, because often those sequels aren't as good. Maybe this would be just a great one and done. As long as they got a great story. Let me know your thoughts of where you would like a season 2 to go. What did you think about the reveal of the old guy? It makes sense now if you go back and watch the film. Even that one set, the one game that they had where they were playing marbles, where his hometown, where he said, I used to live like this, and then went to the place, and this looks like my place. You can kind of see moments now that if you think about it, when he's standing on top of the bunk beds and saying, we're all going to kill each other, and the guy that's controlling everything says, end the game now. And there's moments in that you're like, I can see it now after the fact, 2020 hindsight. So yeah, those are interesting moments. Let me know other moments you caught. Where do you think it's going to go? Who was your favorite character in this? Don't forget, Chris from Movies and Munchies and myself on Sundays do the best thing. We watch the video, and then if you like the podcast, we have special add-ons like a bonus event on the podcast. You can find us on all your latest platforms for podcasting. And this Sunday particularly, we have an interesting one because I managed to go to a press screening for Dune, and there's some interesting news we're going to talk about Dune in that. So I hope you enjoy. Do join us. Let me know your comments below. Thanks so much for watching, but most of all, until next time, remember, live long Tuesday.